Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner's burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Y'all, this election cycle is a doozy. I've never felt so confused when discussing politics than I feel today. Welcome to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but it's absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. Today, we're recapping the first presidential debate, So if you are anywhere in the world, then you've either watched or you heard about, or you're looking at clips. But either way, we're discussing the first presidential debate. I think this is what everyone is talking about, particularly today. But before I dive into that, I really want to talk about a couple of other things that led up to this debate. And then I'm going to go and give you a recap on what I believe happened, the moments that stood out to me during the debate. And then I will give you my final analysis. So you have so much in store. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the table, the kitchen table. So should Biden be replaced? That's the first question, right? Before we even go into what happened last night, this was something that was being talked about prior to this election cycle. Should Biden be replaced? But first, can he be replaced? Unknown to some, I would say, and I would say to most people, there is a way for Biden to be replaced. Neither of the two presidential candidates that are representing the Republican Party and the Democrat Party right now have been nominated by the convention or their respective conventions. So right now, they're the presumed nominee. Now, that being said, RFK Jr. is probably the only one, and Chase Oliver, who's the Libertarian candidate, was just selected by his convention. So those two are the only two that's actually on the ballot right now, which is really interesting because all we hear about is Trump and Biden. But either way, that's just kind of where we are right now. They have not been officially accepted, which will happen in the coming weeks at their respective party conventions that's happening soon. But if they are accepted, I believe it's a given that Trump is going to be accepted. I really do believe it's a given, but by who? So let's backtrack, because I think that a lot of you are either new to politics or you've been around politics, but you don't necessarily know the behind the scenes of politics. So I want to give you a little bit of backstory as to what this is and how this plays out. Who has to accept each of these candidates and how does it work? Well, in a nutshell, each party has a convention. And it's kind of like a meeting of the minds or a like minds that come together to speak, to converse, to talk and make decisions. During the convention, you have delegates, alternates, and attendees. The delegates are the only ones that can actually vote. The alternates step in case a delegate drops out, and then they select who the alternate will be. And attendees are just there to watch the whole thing. They don't have any type of voting power. So you don't necessarily have to worry about them as much, but you do need to pay attention to the delegates. The delegates are supposed to be selected after attending all conventions that led up to this main event or this big national convention. These conventions happen on the precinct level, they happen on the county level, they happen on the congressional level, and then eventually the state level. And then from there, you go to the national. So if you make it through all of these conventions, meaning that you have been nominated as a delegate or an alternate through each of these steps, and then you get to the state, and then the state decides, all right, we're going to go with this slate, then you make it and you get to go to national. Now, that's the way it's supposed to happen. I'm going to give you the behind the scenes of like what I've seen, because like I said, that's the process. The process is you kind of go through these different levels. You pick the person that you feel, I don't know, I guess you pick the person that's been most active or whatever your criteria is from a precinct level to a county level. And the purpose is that hopefully if you start at the precinct level, you continue to be nominated. It shows that you've been consistently supporting the party, active, things of that nature. And then you get to the end and then, you're selected. So that's the way it's supposed to go. but it doesn't always work out that way. And oftentimes the chair of the state party selects the people who they are most aligned with. They'll select the people that they feel that the candidate who is leading in the polls right now, whether it be Republican or Democrat, but whoever that candidate is, they typically choose people who are part of their majority base. So they're kind of like they're given, right? Like these are the people that's going to support me regardless. I know it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. It's just politics. But that's where we are. And now it's up to those individuals to select our official nominee for each of the parties, whether it's the Democrat or the Republican. As of right now, like I stated before, Chase Oliver, RFK Jr., Chase Oliver is a Libertarian, RFK is the Independent. They have been selected. They are on the ballot in several states, not all, but Georgia is one of them. So I think that's pretty interesting that RFK was on the stage, but we'll get into that. That being said, we had a debate this week. Actually, at the time of this taping, it was yesterday. But before I get into my thoughts and those key moments, I want to talk about the chatter that's going around the debate, starting with this article I found by the Daily Mail. Now, this article came out prior to this first debate. The name of the article was "Exclusive Secret Democrat Plot to Replace Biden Revealed: How Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer would topple the aging president and when they'll do it." It's a heck of a title. That's a heck of a title. So let me read that one more time. It's exclusive. Secret Democrat plot to replace Biden revealed: how Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer should topple the aging president and when they'd do it. Okay. Now, that's quite interesting, right? It's quite fascinating to me if you really think about it, because I found it interesting that this was coming out ahead of the debate. We don't even know how he is doing or how he's going to do, but either way. So let's dig into this for a few minutes. So the article begins by discussing the public incidents that has led up to considering switching Biden out. Biden's had several of these public issues where he's falling down and making blunders and just doing all this type of stuff. And this has raised concerns, including recently needing President Barack Obama, our former president, assistance at a fundraiser to walk off of a stage. Like that right there, I think was when people were like, this is looking a little weird. And that led them to considering to switch out Biden. Biden has had ample time to rectify this, but he just continues to show that it seems like he's declining, he's getting worse, but that's just me. But anyway, that has raised concerns, including recently the fundraiser with President Barack Obama, as well as him standing motionless at the Juneteenth celebration. The White House has denied that Biden froze in the viral video. However, despite all those denials and speculation about Biden being replaced, it continues. So people are still talking about it regardless. That's what this article is pointing out. Another issue is polling. So apparently, according to this article, let me state this first. What I saw, and this is not in the article, but this is what I found, is that as of June of 2020, Biden was polling at 50% and Trump was polling at 38%. And today, neither one of them are cracking 50%. So that's just something to keep in mind, and it's very unique, right? Anyway, in this article, polling experts Nate Silver highlighted Biden's low approval ratings as well as concerns about his age. His approval rating is at a low 37.4%. 37.4, that's really low. I mean, and his vice president, Kamala, is like right with him. Anyway, take all of these issues and you get to call for a switch. But why are we here? I don't know. It's beyond me. I can't even figure out why we're here, because I believe we saw all these issues before Biden announced. But anyway, here we are. All right. So now we have, this is back in the article, they're saying that now we have prominent figures like Mark Leibovich and James Carville, who suggested Biden should not have ran for re-election, and their discussions about a potential replacement. If Biden's performance does not improve, making this first debate there their indicator, the Biden team's opportunity to show that he is capable, to show that he has the capability to continue to lead this country. That's what this first debate was supposed to be. But anyway, the debate is seen as a critical test for Biden. It's funny reading this after the debate, right? But anyway, this debate is a critical test for Biden. As of other prominent leaders that will be watching and making sure, it includes Obama, Clinton, and Pelosi, Schumer, as they listed in the article. If Biden's performance or polling numbers do not improve, you might see a united front of key Democrat leaders. This is what the article is saying. Obama, Clinton, Pelosi, and Schumer to convince them to step down. But how easy is it? Well, replacing Biden is difficult and a risky maneuver. Biden could refuse to step down. That's always that option, but then they could just vote him out at the conference. Harris is not seen as the automatic replacement because, I mean, why would she be? Her polling numbers are just as low as it relates to her approval ratings. And there's concerns about her performance as vice president and potential progressive backlash if she's passed over, which basically is a cute way of saying Black women are going to be mad if you get rid of Kamala Harris, even though she doesn't identify as a Black woman. But anyway, I digress. That's something they're saying. So a carefully planned process would need to be introduced in order to endorse a new candidate, potentially involving a public event with key Democrat leaders. The Democrat Party might take drastic actions if convinced that Biden would lose. And I think, well, we'll get into that. There are several political risks associated with this maneuver. The replacement nominee would face risk, especially if they lose to Trump, potentially damaging their political career. Although I see it differently. I believe this would set them up for a future run, whoever this person is, whoever this new candidate is. I think it would set them up for a future run. And I think it would be a terrible look for the Biden campaign and the party as a whole if they go to great lengths to replace Biden and he loses. So whoever they replace him with has to win. But only time will tell. And this past debate can serve as a guiding light, as an indicator. So did Biden do enough? Did Trump do enough? Well, we're going to discuss that and more after the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3.
Look out, it's a Kimber. We've got your afternoons covered, all right, and the Morning Extra's got your drive-in from 6 to 10 a.m., too.
You want to talk about desperation. Desperation is telling the American people that no matter what you're seeing, it's fake. Everybody knows those videos weren't fake. They're not deep fakes. They're not AI fakes. They're not anything except for the truth. No, nobody is taking advantage of these situations. Nothing is fake. Everything you saw was true.
Well, we've officially hit, according to KJP, 1984. Do not believe your eyes and ears. What we tell you is the finality of the truth, and that is all that is going to exist. But the reason why you don't see these videos is because this administration have made it virtually impossible for you to see these videos. You have to see them on the internet in order to be able to watch them. And so they're trying to hide the fact that this man is clearly in decline, and it's accelerating.
The Morning Extra, 6 to 10 a.m. on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade. He can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth. That is simply not true. We are not for late-term abortion, period, with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office.
He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families. There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done. The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion. It was a ripoff of the United States. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him, and he's going to drive us into World War III. You want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
Well, welcome back to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. So welcome back to my table. Before the break, we discussed an article by the Daily Mail that was titled, "Secret Democrat Plot to Replace Biden Revealed," how Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer will topple the aging president, and when they do it. If you missed it, don't worry. There's an encore episode of this particular episode that would air tomorrow at 9 a.m. on Extra 106.3. And if you want to go and watch this entire discussion, which is actually a little bit longer than what you may have gotten, you can go to YouTube. It's up on YouTube right now. So go to YouTube. And then if you're one of those people that just like to listen to podcasts, just wait a couple of days. By Tuesday of the following week, you will be able to listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, or you can come right back here at Extra 106.3 and listen to it on the podcast part. So that's totally up to you. Now that we've discussed the stakes, let's discuss what happened at the debate. So going into the debate, I felt like Trump and Biden were walking into this debate with one objective. Biden has to appear coherent, and he has to focus on the issues as they are rather than how his administration wants us to see it, where I feel like Trump has to appeal to the disenchanted Republicans and independents and present a message that will encourage and reinvigorate voters. So did that happen? Well, something happened. Something happened for sure. So let's recap really, really quick. I personally feel like last night was bizarre. I think it was one of the most weird, strange debates I've seen in my entire political history, which is over a decade. And the reason why is because, first of all, the authoritarianism that came out on both ends, I think it's from both President Trump and President Biden, was just too much for me. What do I mean by that? So I feel like Biden had all of these demands, right? So it was like, no, what is it? Like you have to turn the mic off, no audience, just weird stuff, right? Like it's just really weird. So that being said, that was a problem for me. Where I think Trump kind of enabled some of this is when he also didn't want RFK to be on the stage. I don't think either one of them should have determined who's on the stage. We should decide who's on the stage. Send a poll out. Ask us what we want. But anyway, I digress. I'll get into all that later. The point is, I think last night was bizarre. And what was most interesting to me was the reactions from the news nations. News nations. That's actually a network, News Nation, but from a news stations and all the news stations that were reporting on this, just kind of, that was the part that really interested me. You know, we woke up this morning thinking, who is going to replace Biden? I think that is what everyone was talking about. That's what everyone is thinking and considering because of his performance. His performance last night was just it was just awful. It was awful. So what did we watch? All right. Well, they came out the gate hot talking about the economy, which I thought was interesting. And beginning with Biden attacking Trump on his corporate tax cut. I think it was like the Jobs and Tax Cut Act or something like that. Anyway, which I always think is a reflection of business acumen or the lack thereof when we start discussing taxes and financial issues. And then they come from this angle, because here's the thing, Biden is anti-corporations, which is always weird to me because we've got to have a strong economic system. I mean, the fact that we're talking about people don't have jobs, but then we're also trying to weaken corporations, it's just really weird to me. A lot of small businesses are not in the position to hire at the level that these corporations are hiring. So when they go away, a lot of people become unemployed, and we just don't have the capacity to make up the difference. So I just think that rhetoric is very, very weak, and I think it's harmful, considering the fact that the top 1% of our most wealthy people in America identify mostly as Democrat. So I think that's pretty interesting too, right? That it's the 1% that's saying that I want to harm other businesses. Maybe that's how they became the 1%. I digress. However, Biden tried to tie the Jobs and Tax Cut Act to inflation, which was just a weak thing. I mean, I thought it was a huge stretch. Either way, Trump responded. And his response was basically, we avoided inflation due to the tax cut, which it happens, which I personally believe is true. I mean, it's what happens when you make checks a priority rather than 1 or 2 time handouts or like payments to people, right? So when people are able to get a consistent paycheck, that tends to work out a lot better than just giving them a check once or twice a year. So letting the market work for itself, that's what it means when we say, let the market work. It will work every single time if you allow it to do what it does. Young people are complaining about wages, and it's because you're not working. When the market is moving, that means all parts are working together, then salaries will become competitive. In our business, my husband and I are business owners, and in our business back in 2018 and 2019, we were struggling to find new people. It was so hard to find people because everyone was working and everyone was being paid well. We had to go way above our normal salary range or our normal rates because the market was so competitive. So this idea that trickle down economics is something bad or it doesn't work, no, it just gets a bad rap because they turned it into a slogan or some type of political narrative, when in fact it does work, but you have to have patience in order to see the outcome, which is why I'm not one of those Republicans who believe that we need to abolish our entitlement programs as of right now, which is like social programs, right? Welfare, Medicare, things of that nature. I don't think we're in a capacity where we can just wipe it clean and like force everyone to just go figure it out. I think that would create chaos. But I am one of those people that's like, I want to look at our process and look at our system and ensure that what we are doing is putting people in the best position to be able to get out of that scenario if possible, and hopefully soon. So that's what we want to see, and that's what I think we should do. But again, that's just my thing, and I would digress again. Moving on. So then they talked about COVID a little bit, and I found this to be really interesting. This is one of the topics that I was wanting to hear more about. I wanted to hear Trump's explanation around this more, because this has been like a little bit of a rift between the Republican Party and within the Republican Party. You have the people who are, everything's fine, don't worry about it. And the other people who are like anti the shot, and they just kind of like, no. And it depends, wherever you stand, it's wherever you stand. But that is an issue. And then you have RFK, who wasn't there, but should have been, as I stated before, who has shined the light on the differences of opinions regarding the shot. And I believe that Trump's one line ended the debate on this while allowing him to also maintain his stance. I thought it was pretty brilliant what he said. He said, I may have made it, but Biden mandated it. And I just thought that was a 100% great response that doesn't also look like he's flip-flopping on his stance, because we like having options. What we don't like is being told which option to choose. That's where typically we get a little antsy. But that's all on that. I think he did a good job of at least hitting that. However, I wanted to hear more. I wanted to hear more about whether or not we're going to look into some of these studies, or whether or not we're going to make this issue in 2024 after 2025, once they're sworn in. I don't know. I wanted to hear a little bit more, but for the sake of time, we are going to move on. Okay. Another issue that stands out to me was the topic of abortion. Now, my husband, Kelvin, he's been saying something lately that really stands true. And what he's been saying is the economy, inflation, economics, finances, that is a topic that Republicans can win on all day long. We are really good with our money. Like, we're conservatives. So we're really good, like, as it relates to understanding what works and what doesn't work and when it comes to economics, right? We're not big spenders in some cases. There are some that are, obviously, but it's just not the nature of our party to be these big spenders. So all of this, like the debt increasing and adding to the debt, that's concerning for us, especially when it's done by a Republican. However, like my husband always says, that the economy is great, and that's the number one issue, and it will be the number one issue until it's not. Until the economy starts to look better, until people start to feel better. And then you'll have a situation where we're now focusing on these social issues. And I don't think the Republican Party has done a great job at answering some of these social issues, because they're not a priority until they are. So that being said, I 100% think that my husband was spot on with that, and we have to have a response. Trump has avoided for a long time this question around abortion. He's kind of skated through it. He said, I may not, as far as the federal ban and all the other stuff. However, last night he decided to provide us with at least a portion of his stance. He did not talk about whether or not he would, well, I guess this means he wouldn't, right? Because he didn't go into whether or not he's going to ban abortion on a federal level, but he made it clear where he stood on the abortion pill, which I believe was the direct question that was asked of him. And he said that he supports the Supreme Court decision to block the bill ending the abortion pill, and that he would block it as well. He said that he believes in exceptions, and so in other words, the decision was, I think, not to block the pill. And he believes with that. He stands with it. He's fine with it. He said he would block it if that was a policy that came forward. He believes in the exceptions, life of the mother, rape, etc. But he said, follow your heart. And then he said something that was kind of strange. He was like, you have to get elected. And I feel like, is that a Freudian slip? Like, are you just basically saying that this is my stance because this is going to help me get elected? I don't know, but I feel like that was a little bit of a Freudian slip. As I said it before, there was a lot of Republicans who are concerned about that. They feel like it's a little, he's not as pro-life as they want him to be. But I can't see the remarks helping him from last night. But I don't know if it's going to hurt him or how it will hurt him. I guess we're going to find out if the people that are supporting him are, if morality is stronger than loyalty. We'll find out, right? I mean, that's the case for some, but no, not all. Regarding Biden, nothing new happened. Biden stumbled through everything, every answer. He sounded very rehearsed, but then, very tired as well. He announced that he was sick that week, which I'm wondering whether or not they got a COVID test, because it had this be 4 years ago. That would be a problem. I felt like throughout the debate, Trump appeared to believe in what he was saying, while I felt like Biden sounded like he was just kind of saying what he was told. So there's not much to say about Biden. He didn't do a good job. He didn't say anything that was really, spectacular. There's one thing I think he got correct, and I'll get to that in a second. Trump, on the other hand, was asked about January 6th. Surprise, surprise. You know what I mean? Surprise, surprise. Okay. Anyway, so Trump's responded pointing to Pelosi and highlighting the fact that during January 6th or ahead of January 6th, he got word that there was going to be a ton of people there. He understood they were emotional. This is his story, his words. And so he contacted Pelosi and he offered 10,000 National Guard members that were turned down by Pelosi. And that's pretty much what he said. And he thought that that was a indicator that, you know, they didn't really care. They didn't think there's gonna be any issues. They knew what was gonna happen and they still didn't do anything. And now they're making this a big deal. I don't know. The left is fact checking that. I haven't seen the interview. He said something about she did an interview when she said it. But anyway, that was his response to it. Good, decent. There wasn't much about climate or the environment, which I thought was interesting, but I felt like that was their way of trying to help Biden. However, Trump did get a little bit of a dig in, even though we didn't get to talk about any of it, calling the Green New Deal the Green New Scam, which I thought was fabulous and interesting. However, I got to call it out. The Green New Scam, isn't your son, Jared Kushner, investing $100 million into a solar panel financing company called Mosaic? Okay. So if it's a scam, okay, but it's a high price here. Anyway, Biden dodged it. He dodged that bullet. He didn't have to talk about the environment or climate change, all that stuff. So, okay. Anyway, there was an instance where I did feel like Biden was correct, and that's when he talked about Trump's tariffs and stating that increasing tariffs will lead to raised prices. That's a fact. I think Trump said it wasn't true, but it's true. It's very true. But what is stopping other countries from hiking up their costs to us? And you just can't mooch off of our consumer base, right? And then we don't get anything from it, right? And not pay us a fee or pay us something. So that's the point of tariffs. Basically, what tariffs is saying is it's a tax on other countries who want to sell products in our country to us. Like, you don't get to tap into our consumer base, take our money, convert it into your money, and then go build something to attack us. Like, you got to pay up. You got to pay up, right? So every country has tariffs. Don't think this is something we're doing, but we're just better at it. So, okay. So in my opinion, the after show meltdown was just as good as the actual or the lack of debate that we saw. The commentators were in straight panic when I went through it. I watched a good bit actually, of MSNBC, News Nation, CNN, Newsmax, and Fox. And I watched a good bit of each of those back, like kind of the breakdown from the debate. And the left was in a straight panic. I've never seen so much discussion about swapping a presidential candidate out this close to the convention in my whole life. I mean, I've never heard that before, but they are flipping out. And I really do believe that you have two options. You can either get rid of him, swap him out for somebody else, or they're going to have to run a lean campaign and hope to weaken Trump, because there's no way donors are going to continue to put money into Joe Biden's race. His energy on the stage was awful. Like I said, they claimed he was sick, but he didn't look sick or sound sick. And when he spoke to his supporters right after the debate, his speech was energetic. His cadence was strong. Meanwhile, Trump showed up very calm, but it wasn't enough. Was it enough for him to actually move the needle? I mean, who do you believe, or do you believe that he did enough to impress the most important voters in the audience, which is our independents and the Republicans that are reluctant to vote, period? After the break, I'm going to leave you with my takeaway, and I'm going to answer all of these questions and more. Thank you so much for listening to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Rhino from The Morning Extra, getting your weekday morning started from 6 to 10 a.m.
Did you see they're making a new Looney Tunes movie?
I did. I just remember how bad Space Jam 2 was. You think they're going to get this right? No,
this one
not.
isn't live action mix. It's just the animation.
How woke is it?
I'm sure very up.
Is the entire story that time that Bugs Bunny put lipstick on to trick someone?
Exactly. That's
and
every
now
episode.
he's a trans bunny? Fooled you.
Yeah.
Fooled you. I'm a trans bunny.
The Morning Extra, 6 to 10 a.m. on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
It is more difficult for him to communicate for that reason. So there's a lot to mitigate the way that he speaks, and you can understand it, and we've observed him for a long time. That said, I too was on the phone throughout much of the debate with Obama world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives, with campaign operatives. My phone really never stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic. The people who were texting with me were...
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public?
Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish.
I think I witnessed the unofficial end of the Biden campaign.
What we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people.
He looked weak and confused. I like him. No way you could believe this man could be commander-in-chief for more years.
This president has family members who don't love him, because any loving family member would not put a man like this through the hell that they're actually putting him through.
What voters are concerned about when it comes to the tapes and this old, unfit individual who's president of the United States, we saw that on the debate stage today. The worst debate performance in modern history from Joe Biden versus the strength of President Trump.
There is panic that has set in among people who have watched this debate.
Welcome back to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. Before the break, we discussed an article by the Daily Mail, Secret Democrat Plot to Replace Biden Revealed, how Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer will topple the aging president, and when they do it. I also provided you, that's an interesting title, but I also provided you with a debate recap, or at least my synopsis. So if you missed it, don't worry. There will be an encore episode of this show airing right here on Extra 106.3 tomorrow at 9 a.m. Or you can go to YouTube right now and watch the entire discussion without any commercials or any of that. The podcast will drop on the following Tuesday. As well, if you're a podcast person, and you can get it wherever you get podcasts. Just look for the Janelle King Show. But I encourage you to come to the podcast park right here at Extra 106.3, thepodcastpark.com. Now that we've recapped the debate and we've had discussion around the potential strategy and the concerns around pulling Biden out of this race. So where are we? We have one debate down, 5 months to election day. Did Biden perform? Did Trump flop? In my opinion, Trump gave a great response to the shot, which I thought was awesome. And, when he said, I made it, but he mandated it. So that helped him to kind of tighten up some of that. When you have a large portion of the party that's advocating for a federal ban on abortion, I think his answer could have been stronger, but it's a complicated topic, so I'm not going to press the issue on that. Otherwise, I wish that he talked more about policy and less of comparing himself to Biden or calling Biden out. I just thought I felt like because Biden was so weak, the moment he saw that, or even they assumed that he was going to be weak, I think that it would have been a little bit more impactful had Trump just took this time to kind of act like Biden wasn't there, just answer the questions and provide additional information around policy. I just think that would have opened the door for him to really get in there and utilize this opportunity a little bit better. I want to hear more about details and projections. But what's most telling, and what I believe was most telling, was the reactions from voters, not the politicals like me, not the diehard Democrats or Republicans, but there were some regular voters that they interviewed, particularly in Arizona. I felt like that was really interesting because these voters were not hard Republicans, and they weren't. They weren't hard Democrats. I don't think they were Democrats at all, and but they kind of had issues with both candidates. So I found theirs to be quite interesting. That being said, the reactions of these voters are a little somber for me. I feel like they're just a little bit somber. I think most want to move on from both of them. I think that it was unfair and too controlling to not allow us to hear from RFK and Chase. I've talked about that already. I think advocating for RFK to be off the stage was just wrong. I just think it was wrong altogether. We don't have a binary decision. The notion that we do is that, to me, that's the government telling us, the people, how to think. Don't tell me how to think. We don't have a binary decision. There are several candidates in this race. So, it's up to you. You may see it as binary, but don't make it seem like that is the consensus of all America. I don't like that, because that assumes that the others don't matter. And who decided that? Like, who decided that they were not as important as the other two? 1,500 people who you polled? And that's being generous, because a lot of these polls are less than that. So I don't know. Polls should never determine whether or not we get all or some of the information. So overall, I believe that it is a high probability that Trump will win, provided Biden stays in the race, because although it's not as strong, and I think Trump has a lot of areas that he has to also get better on and tighten up on, his momentum is stronger than Biden's. And I do believe turnout is going to be extremely low. I think that's an option, because a lot of people are feeling like they want to sit home. And I think that will send a message for sure. But the message I want to close with is a message to the voters. We, the people, we are the majority in this process. Not a couple of hundred people who we send to represent us in Congress or the Senate and collectively. If you do not demand all the information, you're only going to get what they give you. And that is up to us as voters. We have to become more serious. We have to become serious about our country. We can no longer sit back and watch things happen, but we have to remember that the government is not church. This is particularly to our conservative voters. The government is not church. It is not the duty of the government to control morality or to take care of the poor. That is the role of the church. Our leaders can't do it because they're not morally pure enough, especially enough to tell me when I'm not pure enough. None of us get to do it. We all have our own issues. We all have things that we wish we can work on, things that we wish we hadn't done, things that we wish we hadn't said. We all have that. And because that's the case, we cannot create a group of individuals to become the moral police. That's between you and God. We don't get to set the standard according to what we deem morally correct, and then interpret it however we want to interpret it, because these interpretations are running rampant, as you can see when it comes to the abortion topic. So let's vote for someone who is disciplined the next go round. Let's vote for someone who's emotionally stable, who has high respect for personal morality rather than regulating the morality of others, and has a solution that gives more power to us, we the people. That's my take. I would love to hear yours. Did Trump win you over if you were one of those people on the fence? Or are you an independent and you were trying to figure out if this was going to be the time where you make your selection? Did you? Are you still supporting Biden? Are you a Biden supporter and you're like, I'm going to roll with him and rock it out? Or are you planning on sitting on the sideline? I want to know it all. Let me know in the comment section if you're on YouTube. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share as well if you're on YouTube. If not, and you want to send me a comment, you can go to my website, allthingsjking.com, allthingsjking.com. Until then, stay unafraid, stay unapologetic, and never stop seeking the truth. Thank you for coming to the table. See you next week.
It's Christmas in July at D. Geller & Son Jewelers, and that means D. Geller Diamond Dollars are back. All month long, earn 20% back on any in-store purchase towards anything in the store. That means you can come shop engagement rings for that beautiful summer vacation proposal and earn diamond dollars to cover the wedding bands. Christmas in July at D. Geller & Son is the perfect opportunity to get more value for your summer shopping. So come shop with Atlanta's favorite jeweler, D. Geller & Son, this summer in Atlanta, Kennesaw, and Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner is burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Is there chaos in your closet? Look, Blouse, you've got some nerve hanging there like that.
I can't help it. I'm jammed in here next to this suit.
Hey, I'm a three-piece, all right, which means I need a little more room.
You've got a lot of attitude for a linen suit.
I'm a polyester blend, sweetheart, and there needs to be room for men's clothes, too.
Hi, I'm Christina, and at Artisan Custom Closets, we help families organize and simplify their closets with customized storage solutions. See what's possible for your home at artisancustomclosets.com, and then call us for a free in-home consultation.